Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And today we're going to be diving into a book called CBD, What Does the Science Say?
Oh, very cool.
By Linda A. Parker, Erin M. and Raphael Mechoulam.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of buzz
Yeah,
about CBD these days.
definitely.
And I think a lot of people are wondering, what's the real deal? Is this just a fad? Or is there some actual science behind it?
Right.
So that's what we're going to be exploring in this deep dive.
Okay.
Just to make things a little more interesting, we're going to be kind of doing this with a bit of a skeptic versus fan dynamic.
I like that.
So I think I'm feeling more like the fan today, especially after reading some of those glowing testimonials about CBD's benefits. But, let's be real. Some of those claims do sound almost too good to be true.
Yeah, and that's where I come in.
Okay.
The skeptic in me is always up for a good scientific debate. And you're right, some of the hype surrounding CBD can feel a little overwhelming at times. But this book does a pretty good job, I think, of separating fact from fiction.
Okay, good.
And it starts by grounding us in the long and often surprising history of cannabis.
Okay.
I mean, did you know, for example, that cannabis has been used for medicinal purposes for like millennia?
Really? I knew about, like the recreational use.
Right.
But medicinal.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, the book even talks about how ancient Assyrians were using cannabis to treat epilepsy.
Wow.
And then fast forward to today, we actually have FDA-approved CBD medications for epilepsy, like Epidiolex.
Okay.
So it's kind of a reminder that this isn't just some passing fad.
So it's not just like, hippies and hipsters jumping on the CBD bandwagon.
Right.
There's actual scientific weight behind this.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. I'm impressed.
But let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The difference between CBD and THC.
Right.
I think a lot of people still get those two confused or assume that CBD will get you high.
Right.
But this book debunks that myth right away.
Yeah. I remember reading that it's actually the THC that's the psychoactive component in cannabis.
Exactly.
The that actually gets you high.
Right.
Well, CBD doesn't have those effects.
Yeah.
But how can two compounds from the same plant be so different?
Well, it all comes down to their molecular structure and how they interact with our body's endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, okay.
You can kind of think of it like two keys.
Okay.
THC fits perfectly into that psychoactive lock, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, CBD doesn't quite fit.
Okay.
It doesn't unlock those same effects.
So CBD won't get you stoned.
Right.
But does it actually work for anything?
Right.
Like, I'm particularly curious about its potential for anxiety.
Well, the book dives deep into the science behind that, explaining how CBD interacts with our brains and potentially influences things like serotonin levels and other neurotransmitters that are involved in mood regulation.
Right.
And there's some promising preclinical evidence from animal studies that suggests that CBD could have those calming effects.
See, I told you. I've heard so many anecdotal reports of people using CBD for anxiety, and it seems to work wonders for them.
Right, but anecdotal evidence, while a good starting point, isn't the same as having that rigorous scientific proof.
Okay.
The book acknowledges that while those personal stories are compelling, we really need more robust human studies to confirm CBD's efficacy for anxiety.
So you're saying don't ditch your anxiety meds just yet?
Not so fast.
Okay.
While the book highlights those promising early findings, it also emphasizes the need for more research to figure out things like optimal dosages, long-term effects, and potential interactions with other medications.
Okay, that's fair. But even if the jury's still out on anxiety, what about CBD for other conditions?
Right.
Like, I know there's a lot of buzz about its potential for pain relief.
Yeah, the book delves into that too.
Okay.
Exploring how CBD might actually interact with our pain receptors and reduce inflammation.
Okay.
It even discusses some preliminary evidence that suggests that CBD could help manage chronic pain conditions.
Interesting.
Osteoarthritis.
See, this is what I find so exciting about CBD research.
Yeah.
It seems like there's potential for so many different applications.
Right.
But I'm guessing you, Mr. Skeptic, have some reservations.
Well, of course. While the preclinical research in animals is promising, we need to be cautious about extrapolating those findings to humans.
Okay.
The book really stresses that more rigorous clinical trials are needed to confirm CBD's effectiveness and safety for pain management in people.
Okay, point taken.
Right.
We can't get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
But let's be real. The research on CBD is still in its early stages.
It is.
Isn't it possible that future studies will confirm some of these anecdotal reports?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of science.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process of discovery.
Right.
This book isn't meant to be the final word on CBD.
Right.
It's more like a snapshot of where the research stands today, acknowledging both the potential and the unknowns.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this book is kind of laying out the groundwork for people to really understand what we know so far and what we still need to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to dive into some more specifics.
Yeah, me too.
About what this book has to say about CBD.
Let's do it.
So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a quick break.
And that's why I think books like this are so valuable.
Yeah.
They really encourage us to, stay curious, to ask critical questions, and to be open to new discoveries as the science evolves.
Speaking of new discoveries, one area that really caught my eye was the discussion of CBD's potential for PTSD.
Oh, interesting.
The book suggests that CBD might help disrupt the way traumatic memories are stored in the brain.
Okay.
Potentially making them less intense or emotionally charged.
Yeah. The book delves into this concept called memory reconsolidation, which is basically the idea that when we recall a memory, there's like this window of opportunity to modify it before it gets restored.
Yeah.
And some of the preclinical evidence in animals suggests that CBD might actually interfere with this process.
Interesting.
And potentially lessen the grip that those traumatic memories have on a person.
Wow. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But if that's true,
that
could be a game changer for people struggling with PTSD.
Absolutely. But again, we need to kind of temper our enthusiasm with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
While the preclinical research is promising, human studies are still pretty limited.
Okay.
The book emphasizes the need for more rigorous research to really confirm these findings and figure out the optimal ways to actually use CBD for PTSD.
Okay, so maybe not a cure, but definitely a glimmer of hope.
Definitely.
I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical about CBD for depression. It just seems so counterintuitive to me to think that a compound from cannabis could help with a mood disorder.
I understand your skepticism.
Yeah.
It's a really complex condition with multiple factors at play.
Right.
But what's fascinating is that the preclinical evidence for CBD's antidepressant-like effects is actually pretty strong.
Really? What kind of evidence are we talking about?
Well, for example, in animal models of depression, CBD has been shown to influence the same neurotransmitter systems, like serotonin, that are actually targeted by those traditional antidepressant medications.
So it's possible that CBD could be an alternative.
Potentially.
For people who haven't found relief with traditional antidepressants.
It's a possibility worth exploring. However, we need more human studies to really confirm these findings and understand how CBD compares to those existing treatments in terms of effectiveness and side effects.
This brings up another important point.
Yeah.
The potential downsides of CBD. I know the book emphasizes that CBD isn't a miracle cure.
Right.
And like any substance, it can have potential side effects.
Exactly. It's important to remember that just because something's natural doesn't mean it's completely harmless.
Okay.
The book discusses some common side effects like dry mouth, diarrhea, and changes in appetite.
Okay.
It also highlights the possibility of, more serious concerns like liver damage. Particularly in people who are taking really high doses of CBD. Or those with pre-existing liver conditions.
Okay, that's a bit concerning.
Yeah.
So it's not something to take lightly?
Absolutely not. The book stresses the importance of talking to your doctor before using CBD.
Okay.
Especially if you're taking other medications or have any underlying health conditions. CBD can interact with certain medications. Potentially increasing side effects.
I see.
Or reducing their effectiveness.
So you really got to be careful and do your research.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive and advocating for your own health.
Now, I've heard mixed things about CBD for sleep. Some people swear by it for insomnia. While others say it keeps them awake.
Yeah.
What does the book say about that?
That's an area where the research is a bit murky.
Okay.
Preclinical studies in rodents suggest that CBD might have what we call biphasic effects on sleep.
Okay.
Meaning the outcome actually depends on the dose.
Interesting.
Low doses seem to promote wakefulness, while higher doses might actually induce sleepiness.
So it's like a Goldilocks situation.
Exactly.
You got to find the just right dose.
You got to find that sweet spot.
Okay.
But how those findings translate to humans is still unclear.
Right.
Human studies on CBD and sleep haven't been very consistent.
Okay.
Some small studies show that high doses of CBD might have those sedative effects, while others found no effect or even increased alertness.
Wow. Okay, so for now it sounds like the jury's still out on CBD for sleep.
Pretty much.
It might work for some people,
Right.
but it's definitely not a guaranteed solution for insomnia.
Exactly.
Now, one area that I found particularly intriguing and maybe a bit controversial was the book's discussion of CBD for addiction.
Yeah. That's a topic that's generating a lot of buzz and research interest these days.
Yep.
Preclinical studies in animals suggest that CBD might help reduce cravings and relapse in addiction to substances like opioids, alcohol, and nicotine.
That could be huge.
Yeah.
Imagine if CBD could actually help people break free from the grip of addiction.
It's a pretty powerful thought.
It's almost hard to believe.
I understand your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's definitely a promising avenue for future research. However, the book cautions that human studies are still limited.
Right.
And more research is needed to confirm these findings and determine the optimal ways to use CBD in addiction treatment.
So the potential is there, but we need more evidence before we start making any grand claims.
Exactly. And that's a good mindset to have when approaching any new treatment or therapy, especially in the rapidly evolving world of CBD research.
Now, I know a lot of people are curious about using CBD for their pets.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any information about that in the book?
The book touches on it briefly, acknowledging that it's becoming increasingly popular. However, it emphasizes that the research on CBD's effects on animals is even more limited than the research on humans.
So it's basically the Wild West of veterinary CBD.
Pretty much.
Okay.
There are anecdotal reports of pet owners using CBD to manage things like anxiety, pain, and seizures in their furry friends.
Right.
But the book cautions against giving CBD to pets without first talking to a veterinarian.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Animals can't tell us how they're feeling.
Right.
So it's important to err on the side of caution.
Exactly. And just like with humans, CBD can potentially interact with medications that pets are taking. So it's crucial to have that conversation with your vet.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From anxiety and PTSD to sleep and addiction.
Yeah.
It's clear that CBD has the potential to impact a wide range of conditions.
It really does.
But I'm curious, with all this talk about the potential benefits, does the book address any potential risks or concerns?
Absolutely. While CBD is generally well tolerated, the book emphasizes that it's not without its risks.
Okay.
We've already talked about some of the potential side effects, but there are also concerns about the lack of regulation in the CBD market.
Right. It seems like everyone and their grandma is selling CBD these days.
Yeah.
But how do you know what's legit?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's a really crucial point because the CBD market is largely unregulated.
Right.
There's a lot of variation in product quality and labeling accuracy.
Right.
So the book actually provides some helpful tips for navigating this kind of wild west of CBD.
Okay, so like what should we be looking for?
Well, first and foremost, look for products that have been third-party tested.
Okay.
This means that an independent lab has verified the CBD content and checked for contaminants like pesticides, heavy metals, and residual solvents.
So it's like a seal of approval.
Right.
Giving you some assurance that you're getting what you paid for.
Exactly. Also pay attention to the source of the CBD.
Okay.
Is it derived from hemp or marijuana?
Okay.
Hemp-derived CBD typically contains less than 0.3% THC, while marijuana-derived CBD can have higher levels of THC.
Right.
This is important to consider, especially if you're concerned about things like drug testing or those potential psychoactive effects.
Okay, so read those labels carefully. Anything else we should be wary of?
Yeah, be skeptical of products making extravagant claims or promising miracle cures.
Right.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Remember, CBD is not a magic bullet.
Right. It's not going to cure cancer or make you win the lottery.
Yeah.
But circling back to our kind of skeptic versus fan dynamic here, even if we approach CBD with, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to be excited about.
Absolutely. This book isn't meant to be a buzzkill or anything. It's really about empowering you to make informed decisions about CBD based on the best available science.
I like that.
And while there's still so much to learn, the research so far is undeniably intriguing.
It is. So what's the biggest takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that CBD is a complex compound with potential benefits and risks.
Right.
This book provides a solid foundation for understanding the science behind CBD.
Okay.
But it's just the beginning of the conversation. As research continues to evolve, our understanding of CBD will undoubtedly grow and change.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of CBD and the science behind it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
And be sure to check out next week's episode where we'll be exploring
I can't wait.
The exciting world of, I know we haven't decided yet, but it'll be something cool.
Sounds good.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening.